Since we have some people who've come down specifically for this aspect of our conversation, I would like to give them, if they would have any questions, an opportunity at this particular time to pose questions of Chief Davis. Any questions that you might have on the basis of what you've heard thus far?
My name is Ray Mills. I am the coordinator for Voices of Recovery in San Mateo County. And the community itself, well, I'll speak for my life personally. David has had a direct effect in my life changing. And I know of the work being done with the police department in East Palo Alto. I work on committees with Chief Davis, and one of the detectives recently went above and beyond to help me personally, Detective Newell, and I want to just give a shout out to him.
Thank you.
What my concern is just the underlying current happening in the community with the time frame from the time of the death till today, and the information. We understand the investigative part, information can't be shared, but the community needs to be a part of in a way that keeps the community cohesive and not have a negative culturally undercurrent about the reasons results are not being found out sooner. Right. And that's happening today.
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think, if I heard it right, and I think I may share a point with you, I think it goes to part of the introduction. If you are already struggling with trust and confidence between the community and the police department, then a lot of information, or the lack thereof, the inconsistency of how you can go from we're close but we're not close. I thought he said something but now I heard he didn't. That it would cause a reasonable person to go, hold it, you're playing games with me. And even though they may not be, it would seem to be that way because I don't trust you. So I think to what Henrietta's point is early on, is when we start talking about police trust and confidence, this is why it's so important. This is why, so that if I look at you saying we're doing everything we can, I can't tell you everything, but I can keep you updated. I respect that you want to know why. I see that David's wife is here so that you are sure that we're doing it, that it may be embraced a little bit better. And I think one of the challenges we have in all these cases, and I would take be a little bit presumptuous to talk about what David would say. This is for all the murders that occurred in East Palo Alto, whether it was David's in San Mateo or the 4 homicides we've had this year, is that the public trust and confidence has to be there if people are, one, going to get involved, and two, trust that we're going to keep working on the case and that we don't write it off as just another black man is shot and killed in the streets of East Palo Alto or another black man from East Palo Alto. So I'm just going to, as the youngsters would say, we'll keep it real. So what you're feeling is what a lot of people in fact are feeling, and is one of the reasons that Susan and I wanted to have that community meeting, is to reassure, why I wanted to be there with her, to reassure that, like any homicide, is that there's no such thing as a cold case for me. We have whether make the call. In other words, we keep going on the cases until we solve it because we think the families deserve that. There's no reasoning, there's no justification, there's no explanation someone can give me that could minimize murder.
Let me just follow up on your question, Ray, and if you want to follow up on what Chief Davis said, and Margaret, if you want to say something too. During that community meeting, it was stated that there is not one murder in East Palo Alto that somebody doesn't know Correct. Who the murderer is.
I said that.
Okay. Well, at least I'm on target in terms of, and so even in this particular case, I think I heard that somebody has to know something. Absolutely. So what is it that's going to make that somebody come forward? What does the police department need to do to build the type of trust and confidence that's necessary to say, here, let us know let us know. Right now there's a $50,000 reward out, and that $50,000 reward, at least publicly, hasn't triggered
Correct, right.
A response in terms of the murderer.
Right. I think a part is you have to figure out why people may not give the information. So there will be a group who say, I'm not going to give you information because I don't trust the police. there's a group that may be concerned about retaliation, and it's a very valid, legitimate concern. There's things we can do to try to protect that. There's anonymous ways to give tips, but it's still a concern. There are those who embrace the culture of no snitching or stop snitching, that somehow to talk about that case would violate some code. And it's not just, it's just not gangs, it's in our society, that stop snitching mentality. And then there's the option I ask people to think about is, many people may not know. One of the things that is standing out for me personally with David's case is I think because of who David was, that would have broken the stop snitching culture. Somebody would have stepped forward and said something, even if it's a whisper, even if it's an anonymous phone call, even if it's via a surrogate. In other words, a friend told a friend told a friend who told the police. We would have had at least a name to focus on. And so there's always the reality that it could be anything to somebody knows him, to where it has nothing to do with anything other than getting an argument with the wrong person at the wrong time, and this is what happens. And unfortunately in our society, some people use violence as conflict resolution.